Now that the regular season is over, it's time to talk about who should win MVP. For those that have been out of the loop or maybe don't keep up too much with the CDL on a day-to-day basis, there's really only two players in contention for MVP, those being aBeZy and Hydra. And PS, if you like CDL or Call of Duty content, make sure to sub to the channel. But I want to go through aBeZy and Hydra's individual stats, as well as the stats of the teams, because those have to be taken into consideration as well, and decide who should win MVP. Now, first things first, let's look at their individual stats. As you can see here, I made this beautiful graphic for you all to display this. Obviously, I'm not a graphic designer. And the other thing I want to note is that KDs, I know they don't mean everything. KD is not always the best statistics, but having your KD for each game mode kind of gives you an idea of their impact in that mode. So let's look at their stats. You can see on screen, I'm not going to read it all for you, but Hydra is top 2 in 3 out of the 4 KD categories. aBeZy is top 10 in 3 out of the 4 KD categories, right? Both very, very good individual players, individual stats. As well as aBeZy has a 2.4 average placing. aBeZy and Atlanta FaZe, I guess I should say, have a 2.4 average placing this year at the majors, as well as they are the first seed for the overall regular season. And then Hydra and the Subliners had a 5.2 average placing at majors and are third seed going into champs. And obviously, as you can see by the little trophy emojis, aBeZy and FaZe won 1 major this year, where Hydra and NYSL won 2. Now let's zoom in and look at the CDL standings for the regular season, right? Since MVP is a regular season award, and I do personally think that your team's success matters when it comes to MVP, right? You have a guy like Pred who put up amazing numbers all year long, but Surge are the 8 seed. They had pretty much 0 success this entire year when it came to majors, so obviously he should not be considered. Hence why Atlanta FaZe players and New York Subliners players, even Optic or Ultra players, should be considered, right? I think if your top 4, top 3 should be the people that are considered for MVP. So looking at FaZe, they came in the 1 seed with 31 match wins and 16 losses, which was a 66% match win percentage, whereas the Subliners came in with the same amount of wins and 1 more loss, so just a slightly less win percentage, but the same amount of wins of matches as Atlanta FaZe. And then you look at game wins and game losses, so these are your maps. They both won 112 maps, and FaZe lost actually a couple more. So New York Subliners actually came in with a higher game win, map win percentage, which you can't see. Let me slide that over for you right there. They actually had a slightly higher game win percentage. Obviously, FaZe making it deeper runs into majors. It means they're going to play more maps, which means they lost more maps. So not the greatest statistic to, base everything off of, but very interesting to see that Subliners and FaZe had very similar seasons in terms of game wins and match wins, whereas FaZe came in the 1 seed, Subliners came in the 3 seed, but NYSL won 2 majors and FaZe only won 1. Now, I want to keep this video pretty straightforward, right? I didn't want to make this one of those super long videos where we go through everything and I bait you into how long you could watch the video. I'm going to keep it straight up. Hydra should win MVP in my opinion. I know a lot of people agree with me, but I've seen the arguments on Twitter. There's a lot of people that want aBeZy to win. There's a lot of people that want Hydra to win, but from my opinion, my vote would go towards Hydra. I think if we go back to the graphic that I had here, I know part of it's being blocked, but that's not the point. Hydra had better individual stats, right? When you look at overall KDs, like I said, doesn't mean everything. He had better individual stats, and they won 2 majors compared to FaZe's 1. Not to mention, Hydra is the best player on his team by far, right? Hydra is the only superstar on the Subliners. Of course, Kiz, Skies, and Priesta have their moments, have big games, big series, and have played well, but Hydra is by far their best player, undoubtable. Nobody can argue that. aBeZy, on the other hand, has been, I think, consistently the best player on FaZe this year, but is not always their best player, and is definitely not their only superstar, right? Celium and Simp are both amazing superstars in this league, and of course there's Slasher as well. But when you look at aBeZy, he's surrounded by 2 other superstars, one of which could also be considered for MVP in Celium. If you look at his numbers, he's actually typically in first in some of these KD categories compared to Hydra, but Celium doesn't have the same impact around the map as aBeZy, hence why Abe is the one who's nominated for MVP or considered for it. But yeah, I think when it comes to MVP, team overall success matters, but when MVP most valuable player, Hydra is by far the most valuable player in the league, because he took a team that is kind of just your average team, right? Kismet, Priestess, Skies. You put him on that team and they have become above and beyond. They have beat a ton of great teams, beat teams like Atlanta FaZe in the finals, and won themselves 2 majors. You take a BZ off of this FaZe team, and they still are really, really good, right? They still have 2 other superstars. You take Hydra off this NYSL team, and I think they're more a middle of the pack average type roster. Either way, I don't think you can go wrong giving the MVP to either of these guys. I think they both have had amazing seasons, right? Extremely good seasons. I think they're the only 2 that should be considered for MVP when it comes to actually getting votes. I think they're by far the top 2. And if you want to give it to Abe, that's fine. If you want to give it to Hydra, that's fine. I agree with you on that part. I don't think either one is wrong. But let me know in the comments what you think. Who are you giving? If you had a vote, who would you give your vote to? Like I said, mine is for Hydra. Let me know in the comments who you have. With that being said, thank you for watching this video, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.